This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm somewhat more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff.
This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill. Bill, have you closed on any properties recently?
Yes. I'm glad that you asked that, Stephen. It was, I think, 14 or 15 days ago, 20 unit in St. Petersburg, right in the location that fits our criteria. That's why we bought that property. And the main reason why we buy this property and any other ones that we buy, it has that massive rent growth potential where we're able to force serious value almost immediately.
We love that Tampa, St. Petersburg area and all the rent growth potential in that market. We're definitely looking for more opportunities in that area. To anyone listening, we might also show you some new updates to the Collecting Real Estate brand. We're adding some new logos. We're changing the location of our monthly meetup. We might have some changes in the music and the advertisements that you hear. So we're doing our best to improve the show every way we can. Bill and I have a lot going on with the properties that we're currently operating. Our 15 unit up here in upstate New York is really being almost at the end of that cycle of getting repositioned. We're at a really good spot with that one, and we're trying to focus on not only the properties but this brand here to grow and move forward. Today we interviewed Lindsey and Michael Duguet from Clover Key Capital. Touched on a lot of different talking points, from growing direct to seller to the growth they've had in 3 years and how they started with some single family homes. They've gotten into multifamily. They've gotten full cycle on these properties. And now they're really trying to scale with masterminds, networking, raising capital, and going bigger, faster. Bill, what did you take away from today's interview?
I love them because they're high energy, and they just jumped in after that first book, and I did the same thing. So that resonates with me, and then they're just learning as they go, which is so valuable, right up to the point where they're realizing, based on Michael able to leave his W-2 engineering job and be that real estate professional. Lindsey's a physician. So now they know the value of buying larger assets, that they're able to utilize those tax strategies to offset Lindsey's W-2. There's a lot more in this episode also.
Yeah, we met the two of them down in Manhattan a little over a month ago, and we hit it off with them right away. And both of their answers to our last question revolved around people, and that's what this is all about. And they have such a good story of reading that book, scaling and going property by property, and that's really what this is all about. Lindsey and Michael Duguet, thank you for being here. Excited for this interview here from Clover Key Capital. We met a little over a month ago in Manhattan at a real estate investing meetup. Got to know each other a bit there, and I'm excited to hear more about your story and your plans for the future. Can we get started by hearing how you got into real estate investing?
Sure. So my name's Lindsey Duguet, my husband Michael. By background, I'm an ER and trauma physician. I'm still working my W-2 full-time with that. When I graduated residency as a physician and was starting my attending job, my salary was increasing, and Michael and I sat down and decided what is going to be the best investment vehicle to start putting some of our money into. So we had looked into some cryptocurrency. We still have some of that, as Michael's into that too. For physicians, we're traditionally taught stocks. That's really all I heard my attendings and mentors talk about in residency. Neither of my parents even went to college. They don't even have any stocks really. So I didn't have a whole lot of exposure to any type of investing prior to even going into medical school. But we do some of that, but we weren't very, very interested in it. So Michael read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is the gateway book for many people. He's like, you need to listen to this book. It's really cool. I think this is something we could get into. So after I listened to it, it just, a light bulb clicked for us. So we signed up for a 3-day intensive real estate training course locally around here. And that continued to expand us. And we were like, okay, we're going to do it. 2019 is when we read that book and did this course. And 2019 was going to be more of an educational year for us. But after that training course, I was all into it. I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We started signing up for some local meetups. And that's really how we got into it. We got our first 2 single family properties off market through a local investor. It was, I think, the second meetup we went to. He was like, I have 2 properties. I'm going to give them to the highest bidder in this room, essentially is how it went down. So we bought each of them sight unseen for $2,500 each for each home, which this was kind of our testing property. We're like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do something small. These were pretty small, very cheap, obviously. And we're like, these will be our test properties. So we got the keys. We're like, woo, we're landlords. We're gonna go kill it like HGTV shows. So we opened up the first door and it was a complete disaster. There were squatters inside. The pipes were cut. There were like physical urine bottles all over the place because there wasn't any working water, which the landlord failed to tell us when he sold these to us, hence the cheap price, I guess. So we hired a local contractor that didn't go too well. We paid some money up front, took our money and left town. So we had another guy, one of his partners, not a very good friend to this guy apparently, on the hook. So he actually ended up finishing rehabbing the apartments for us. And they're really nice now, actually. I mean, the neighborhood is like a C-D. However, the units are probably some of the best in the town. So we still own them, and they're still some of our best cash flowing properties, ironically, to date. So then we got another duplex in that town because we're like, oh, we're pros at this now. Well, let's keep going. We still have that one. And from there, we're like, okay, maybe this isn't the best town we want to be in. So we got a couple, again, off market, single family homes at a nice lake town very close to us. From there, we started doing some direct mail campaigns. So I'm sitting here with my toddlers who are putting stamps on our envelopes. I'm handwriting the letters. Michael's doing the research, targeting some older owners who have full equity in their properties, no mortgage. They own them in their own names, so not in an LLC, kind of really the mom and pops that aren't doing it as a business. So we got a 4-unit off market through that. We bought that for $20,000. There was grass growing in the front room, so another home run there when we opened it, sight unseen. That was a 6-month rehab. Now that's completely renovated. Just last Friday, we finished the BRRRR on that. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, and the refinance came on Friday. So we bought it for 20, put 150 in. And we just got a check for $90,000 tax-free last Friday. It's trending right now. 4-unit, we get about almost $400 cash flow per unit after all expenses. So that's great. And then we have a 10-unit as well, which our appraisal for our BRRRR is for tomorrow. So hopefully we get a good chunk out for that too.
Yeah, this month, as I said yesterday, this month is payday for us.
Yeah,
the last 3 years of efforts that is finally paying off, getting our cash back, and now putting that in the next deal. So we're pretty pumped.
We've been working hard for 3 years straight here, so it's nice to finally see some of the fruits of our labors. I mean, everything's rented now except for 1 unit at the lake. We're still rehabbing that, but everything else is renovated, renting. We're getting cash flow in there. So yeah, really seeing the fruits of our labors here finally. It's been a long road.
That's fantastic. Before we get to your background, Michael, I just want to dig into what Lindsey just described, because I have a similar journey. Back when I started investing, it was not knowing anything about real estate. Read a book. Before I was done with that book, I was just blown away on the potential of what that book was telling me, investing in real estate. So I was a little bit ahead of myself, and I bought that first property in a bad location, and I learned a lot. So after those first 2 that you bought for $2,500, where you had some interesting experiences. I don't know if you guys even had any idea what you're getting into with squatters and urine bottles and that specific location. Did you say at that point, okay, we are going to make these work, but going forward, we really need to get specific in our criteria of what we're going to buy going forward to build that real estate portfolio?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for sure, when we first opened the door, we just looked at each other and without saying a word, we were both like, are we really going to do this? Is this what we want to start tackling? But both of us are the type of people, once we're in it, we're not going to give up until there's some type of good outcome. Every step of the journey is a learning experience. So we kind of took it as that. I mean, again, we bought them really cheap, and we said from the beginning with those two, these are our practice properties. This is how we're going to learn.
Yeah, we look at them and we said, okay, what are the risks really? I mean,
Yeah.
$2,500 for each house is.
If we lose it, yeah, it sucks, but it's not going to break us.
It's not a big deal. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're resourceful people. We said, okay, let's see how we can figure that out. And again, we were resourceful. We figured it out.
Every step along the way was, yeah.
We find a contractor, two contractors. The first one kind of let us down, but
we learned about eviction and heavy lifts right away.
Yeah, we fixed the place, and they're great, cash flowing properties. Yeah. We get over $500 a door, there. So it was a good base finally for business now. And we still have those properties. Yeah.
It was after the duplex in that town where we were really like, okay, because even that duplex, it was $20,000, and that wasn't even a heavy rehab. But we're like, okay, these were all very cheap properties, obviously, but we're going to really try to start targeting what we want to at that point.
Michael, talk about your new, if you have changed your location criteria. Sometimes people make a lot of money in some of those CD locations. Have you changed your location criteria by those earlier experiences? And then get right into your background, please.
Right. So my background, first of all, I was born and raised in France. I moved to the US back in 2010 at the age of 27. My background is mechanical engineering. So I did that. I worked for the same company for 13 years. And back in 2018, I left my W-2 job. That's when we had our first kid. And for me, I was getting burned out with the job. And at the same time, Lindsay was doing her residency. And we had our first kid. So that's really a time where we were, okay, how can we make this family situation work? Because I was in planes every other week, basically. And she was telling me, okay,
you're not going to travel every other week with a newborn here.
We can't do that. So for me, real estate really was the gateway to kind of make the family situation work, and the flexibility of managing my own schedule, but also kind of finding a new way to exist in society. I left again a very good job, and even my family was wondering, why are you doing that? So for me, that's a great way. As Lindsay mentioned, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and really clicked with me. I grew up in family where small business owners. We had restaurants in France. And so I grew up with those family dinner discussions about business and taxes and, managing employees. But at a small level, I come across, again, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and everything started to click, because obviously at school, you don't really learn about, you don't really learn about finances and how to, grow your money. So that's a big revelation. And I said to Lindsay, hey, you're about to, be a physician. Listen to that book and see if it makes sense to you too, how we can, grow cash and invest or put your money into, real estate. So again, that allowed me to transition from my W-2 to a position where I can, again, make my own schedule, stay with the family when it's needed. And her schedule is all over the place. So today it works very well. I have the real estate professional status. So we're also looking into, obviously, the way I see it right now is the biggest expense are taxes. So with that status, you can also, compensate some paper loss on real estate and balance, high income from our side. So that's kind of also a strategy that we're trying to implement. So all in all, it's a good combo between both of us. First, staying with a high W-2
I
job.
worked too hard to become a physician, and I love what I do. I don't want to give it up completely, but my goal is to go half-time and make the schedule on my own time. The freedom of choice and time is really where we're at with that.
And today it has really become something we like to do together. It's really not only we are a team with very different skills. I mean, Lindsay's more on the front end, talking with potential sellers, talking with brokers, and soon dealing with potential investors, while I am more on the back end. She negotiates, get the properties, and then she send that to me and I manage.
She deals with the dirty work.
So I deal with the tenants, I deal with,
But
the constructions.
to answer the one question about what type of properties, part of the thing that we've realized going forward is the cost segregation, and you need to have a certain asset level to do that on. And you're not going to do a cost segregation on a $2,500 home, even after the refinance. So we are targeting bigger properties now, multifamily. I mean, really hoping 20 to 100 units, so that we can use some of that cost segregation to offset more my W-2 taxes. So nicer assets, more B class average is what we're looking at.
Our strategy of investment over the last 3.5 years obviously has
evolved a lot.
At the beginning, we were okay, let's do it, and we didn't really thought too much about the location. We were like, okay, again, 2,500 is little risk, but obviously when we got there and me spending time in that town, I was like, okay, I think we should limit our risk with how many properties we want to have in that city. So we got another duplex there to get enough volume to, even when you bring a maintenance guy, you can go to different properties and you kind of scale. I mean, it's not really scaling up, but getting a little bit of efficiency there. But the exposure we wanted to have in that town, after spending, a couple days there working on the properties, like, okay, maybe we should try to balance and maybe bought properties in much nicer area.
And we realize now, as we're starting to invest with other partners, they're not going to want to put their money in that town. So we're looking for towns with population growth now, increasing economy. So our target locations have changed too.
It's great. There's a lot to unpack here. I have a full page of notes already. It's amazing how many lives that one book has changed, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It seems like a lot of people have that catalyst moment of reading that and changing their mentality. I guess I'll start with, you mentioned investing in that town close to you. Where are you located, so people listening have that full picture?
Yep. So we're in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It's northeast Pennsylvania, about 2.5 hours south west of New York, 2 hours north west of Philadelphia.
Okay. And you touched on a lot of things. There's direct to seller. There's these first couple properties that you bought and you weren't really sure what you were doing. Now you're at the stage of burrowing out, getting that cash flow, getting the tax benefits, and starting to look for bigger multifamily properties. And it seems like you have a system and you're ready to move forward and scale. When you were first getting started, did you have any construction knowledge, or was it really just open the door, figure out what's wrong, and figure out how to fix it and move forward?
Yeah, I joke that when I met Michael, I was in medical school in Philadelphia. He was like the fancy French single engineer who literally didn't know how to change a light bulb. And now this guy is, through our process, at the beginning, we had limited money at the beginning, limited knowledge, and limited time. So we traded some of that with him having to learn how to fix some of this himself. So he would go with the contractors that we hired to learn a lot of YouTube videos. A couple months ago, he dug a 6 by 8 by 4 foot hole to change a sewer pipe. Like, I would have bet $1 million 6 years ago he would never do something like that. And here we are, forcing ourselves to have to learn to do this. And it's good to learn, and maybe not to change the sewer pipe once, but even going on property tours now, we certainly know a heck of a lot more than at the beginning. We looked at an 11 unit not too long ago, and we're in the basement. Michael's like, okay, there's asbestos here, there was fire damage here. So things we never would have noticed before through this process and our journey.
Michael's an engineer. He can fix anything.
Yeah.
So all he as a trained engineer, now you're looking at a building.
Yeah.
You look at what needs to be done. His engineer mind takes over, looks at a YouTube video, and he knows how to put that into action. No, that's fantastic.
But with the systems now, we don't want to do that. Now we're at the point where we're going to hire people to do it.
Yeah, I think Lindsay mentioned a couple of points. So at the beginning, obviously, I mean, I had an apartment in France. We had a residential property near the hospital before we started the investment. So we had basic knowledge. But I think one of the first things that I did is actually I spent time with the contractors. He mentioned we had limited capital. So, I mean, more first in investment, we just had the capital to buy it. And we were, we knew we were going to cash flow with the property. So especially when we had several units, I mean, multifamily units, we were using the cash flow to finance the repairs, but obviously
it wasn't the best process, and it was slow.
So the counterpart was me spending time to do some of the stuff myself, but also what I did is I spent months with the contractors and I asked them, teach me how to do it. And obviously, this is not what we want to do now that we kind of graduated from that. But at the time, with the limited capital, that was the way for us to compensate the lack of cash that we had to do that. And I mean, the experience from it was great. I can pretty much fix most of the problems we have in the units. So again, until now, and we're changing our strategy, we're evolving, we are now investing with other people, but until now I was doing the repairs, most of the light repairs by myself, and I learned that from spending months with the contractors. So and again, as she said, that now when we go see a property, things click very quickly. So, and also when we get quotes,
he knows when somebody's telling him it's going to cost a lot more than what it really is.
Yeah,
it's going to take a week.
I get a good feeling on the price of materials. I obviously spent a lot of time at Home Depot. And I think now I know all the aisles, and so that I think that's a great learning experience. It helps me for the underwriting, on the capex. It helps me, so if a quote come back to us, I have a good idea if the guy is trying to take advantage of us or not. So all in all, I don't want to repeat that stage. I like to do it once or twice, do it myself, but obviously now it's a good base for us to move forward and know how, at least to underwrite properly the repairs.
I can relate so much to everything you're saying, because I've been going through it myself. When I first started, I didn't have any construction knowledge. I've been ripped off a couple of times by some services, some vendors, and you learn as you go, and you get better, and you start figuring it out. And then it becomes routine, like you said. You start pointing stuff out, and it feels good when you can start to get to that point. I don't know if I'm there yet, but it sounds like you are. As far as the coaching, you mentioned doing a 3-day program when you first started. How helpful was that? I think we have a lot of listeners that are just getting started into real estate investing. They're on that edge of 1 or 2 properties. They would like to do this full time. How helpful was that? And then also, we met you in Manhattan at a mastermind meetup. Are you in that mastermind? How influential has that been to your growth? Can you tell us more about your experience with coaching?
Yeah, so the mastermind has been way helpful. We'll preface with that. The 3-day coaching, I don't regret it because it taught us a lot. It really got us motivated, and that was kind of the catalyst that started our journey. We learned about leverage, which at least when Michael was in France, credit cards weren't a big thing. So it was more like pay cash. You don't want debt. So we learned about leveraging. If you have $100,000, instead of buying a duplex for $100,000 and you have one, you can put 25% down and have 4 duplexes. and with creative financing, it can be even better. So it really opened our minds up to that. At the end of it, they, like a lot of guru programs, they had an upsell. We ended up buying that. That was not worth the money. So that part I regret a little bit. However, the initial training was great and it opened our eyes. More so the mastermind, we've done a lot of sweat equity in our journey, and we got last year to the point where we had 22 properties, and we're like, okay, do we want to be doing the rehab ourselves? Do we want to be learning everything ourselves? One day I was changing carpet, helping a contractor, and a nail went through my knee. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is not the best use of my time. So we're like, we need to surround ourselves with other people who are doing bigger properties. I started reading more books about syndication deals and the power of partnerships. And it really was the time where we were reaching these refinances where we realized we need to be with other people in this, which is where we found the MIH Make It Happen Mastermind. And this has been absolutely life-changing. So we signed up for this a couple months ago before we even started the official education. We started doing networking. Obviously, we went to this Manhattan event, met you guys in person, and the networking has just been absolutely phenomenal. We've already closed on one JV deal a few months ago with other MIH members. We're in the rehab process with that, and we're currently involved in 2 other deals. I'm working as a capital raiser for one, and we're getting some numbers for 2 other potential JV deals. So we wouldn't be able to do this on our own if it wasn't for other people. So it's really been phenomenal.
Wait a second. You just say you had 22 you have 22 properties?
Yes, and then the 8-unit JV deal.
What the heck? 22 properties. All right. So we went from buying a couple single families, $2,500 a piece in a D area. And you explained a 4-unit and a 10-unit that I think that you're refining, doing the full BRRRR.
Yep.
But you have 22. How many properties have you gone through that BRRRR method so far?
So, well, there's
pretty much all of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. Some of them we took essentially like a HELOC out of the one lake house, and we used that to finance another construction property that we were in rehab. Again, at the beginning, it was limited money, so we had to kind of get creative of how we can finance all this and make it work, because we didn't have partners and we didn't have that knowledge and mindset. So, yeah, we've learned a lot. It's payday.
Right. So the 3-day, to come back to that 3-day event, for me, as she mentioned, in France, credit card was not a big thing. So it really opened my eyes about, leveraging, using credits to grow. So that's a big thing. Obviously, she mentioned creative financing, seller financing was another big thing, the BRRRR method. And other methods that we have never applied, but just basically you can turn a contract into whatever you want. So that's the big takeaway, which was
real estate's a little bit like a game to me, a puzzle. There's so many ways to make a contract work. There's so many, so many things you can do with it. If one method doesn't work, there's 10 others you can use.
So I remember during that 3-day event, they were basically doing an exercise, and based on, $100 cash flow a door, how many doors do you need to have? And I think that was kind of how we set original goals as far as the real estate. And we were looking at Lindsay's W2, and we were like, okay, that's a lot of doors. And that's kind of what we put on we try to map that on a 5-year schedule, and it worked well the first 2 years, and then we ran out of cash, and then the growth stopped as far as growing in terms of number of units, and we also reached the point where now we have 22 units where I do the maintenance, I manage all the tenants. Obviously, we had heavy lift on most of them. And we're like, okay, we can't take more, and we can't grow, and we're out of cash. So we reached that ceiling, about 6 months ago. And the question was, how do we break that ceiling? And obviously, the main answer to that was, okay, now we need to partner with people, grow network, find people that we can buy together, and maybe some people can bring the capital, we can bring the experience with the rehab process, and find properties where we can add value and again do another BRRRR. But again, we were the people. That's the key that we had to solve, and that's the ceiling for us.
I really liked the part where you mentioned that you had two different team members with different skill sets. I think that's beneficial for any team to have those different skill sets. And then Lindsay's saying that you're putting the puzzle pieces together. I've always said the same thing, that any deal, there's different puzzle pieces, and when you put them all together, you can make a deal close. You also mentioned getting into capital raising. Is that where you see Clover Key Capital going in the future? Are you trying to get into larger deals with more of that equity raising side?
Yeah, more so from my end. Again, we mentioned we have different skill sets. I work with a lot of high net worth people at the hospital. Obviously, as a physician, they've seen our journey. We have some interest from some other people. So there's a lot of even blue collar people that just have cash sitting right now with the recession looming and any money in your bank account sitting there making maybe 1% in the highest interest savings accounts. You're still losing money with it just sitting in cash every day. So I, as a physician, I've a lot of education, and this is just kind of the next step in my journey. I'd like to educate other people on the benefits of real estate and how they can grow their wealth in real estate, where you actually are making money and making returns, and then you can recycle it and do it again with the velocity of money instead of just letting it depreciate in the savings account.
No, I love that ability to raise money based on being a healthcare professional, especially when, you said in the beginning, medical professionals, okay, how do we invest our money? Stocks, that's it.
Yeah.
And here we are in an interesting time in the stock market and the economy overall. And I'm sure you're able to leverage that when you're pitching your deals because, geez, we're offering some serious returns on some of these investments that we do. I want to go back. I know you mentioned starting small. It makes zero sense to utilize that cost segregation, that bonus depreciation that we all enjoy on the bigger assets. And then you got into that 10 unit, which I think they say, everyone has a little bit difference of opinion, but as long as you own a property that you purchase for around 500,000 or more, that's that threshold where cost segregation is worthwhile. Can you explain that 10 unit and the cost segregation that you're going to utilize and really get granular on the benefit of how that is going to, I guess you can say, neutralize some of that W-2 income that you make at the hospital?
Yep. So we've talked to several cost segregation experts, and yeah, exactly like you said, 400 to 500 is the general ballpark range that we've been told. This property we actually got off market for $250,000 is what we paid for it. We've put a lot of rehab into it. So once we ran the numbers, we're really kind of right at that threshold where it makes sense. We're planning on going forward, and once everything is said and done, it should still help with a couple tens of thousands of dollars off my W-2. They have bonus depreciation with that, which is going to be phasing out over the next couple of years. But basically, instead of a single family home for the structure, it depreciates over 27 and a half years. Commercial is much longer, what, 30?
No, this one is also 27 and a half. But they basically look at the property and you have to remove the land portion
value,
of the value of the property, but the remaining part, which is probably, let's say, 80 to 90% of the whole value, out of that, engineers do a study, and there's elements in the building that can be depreciated over, I believe it's 5 and 15 years, but there is they are able to depreciate a part of that in the first year. So basically, what we were told with the pre-study is that we could probably depreciate around 15% to 20% of the whole value. in the first year, which is basically a paper loss that you can balance because of my real estate professional status. We can utilize that against Lindsay's W2 income. That's a way to reduce, the base income for the federal tax. So that's the whole game, and that's also obviously changing a little bit your strategy where we may look into. We were very cash flow oriented at the beginning, and now we're also kind of taking that into account for the next purchase, how we can in year one have the benefit of that paper loss to offset our income. So that's an element that we didn't take into account originally, and also based on the fact that the property, you said you have to have a certain value because you have cost to do the study. So the $500,000 threshold is about what we were told, and that's about what it is. So going forward, that we definitely have that in mind for the next investment.
And that results in massive tax savings. And it's important to mention the real estate professional aspect of it. Michael, you're a real estate professional now. Can you get a little deeper into what that means?
Yeah, so when you have real estate professional status on your taxes, you have to be doing at least 750 hours actively in your real estate. So me as a physician, and you have to be doing it more than any other job. So as a physician, there's no way, Uncle Sam is going to justify me saying, oh, I'm rep status and you're still a full-time physician. But Michael, since he has no other job and you're working way more than 750 hours, but that's what you need to do,
to qualify for that status.
But at the same time, if he kept his engineer W-2, even if he was working 750 hours,
it has to be more than his W-2 job. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It makes it very challenging to take advantage of that cost segregation and bonus depreciation. So I appreciate that. Getting into your partnerships there on some joint ventures and raising some money. Has that taken you to another location outside of Pennsylvania?
It has, yeah. This was our first joint deal with other partners, as well as our first out-of-state deal. So the JV deal, it's an 8-unit, very nice building in Indianapolis, Indiana. We like the numbers because after the rehab, it's going to be cash flowing, and it was very similar to our 4 and 10 unit, but in a much nicer area, a bigger building. So the numbers completely made sense to us. The process made sense, and we really thought of this as investing in partnerships as well, learning how partnerships work as a team, and how everybody can have their different skill sets used in the partnership too. So it wasn't just the building we were investing into, but the team process and partnerships and as well.
Right. I mean, so that 8plex is very similar to our 10plex in the sense there's a huge rent bump that we can achieve in a very short time.
We're going from 1,000 a unit to 1,600 a unit, so it's big rent bump.
Yeah, nice.
So and that has been part of our strategy, getting those big rent bump and then refinance after 2 years and get all our cash back and
do it again.
do it again. So we like the deal, and we also like the team, and I think that's probably the most important aspect. We wanted to be with that team. I think you interviewed actually Justin, the cash flow cowboy, so that's our partner. And so we invest in the deal, but we also invest in the team and in him. We obviously see him as great potential, and we wanted to learn from the experience, learn how team meetings will be, how everybody share different responsibility, with that project. So that was, again, not just the building and the returns, but investing in people and investing in us, learning from that experience to do it similarly with other partners, maybe more locally.
We realize the operators are key. You can have the best deal, the best building, but if your operator and team sucks, you're going to run it into the ground and go to foreclosure. So yeah, the team is key.
No, that's awesome. I love how you name drop the cash flow cowboy. Yes, we had him as a guest, and that's fantastic for him because he's a great guy. He's super talented. He's an engineer also, as I don't need to tell you. But yeah, he certainly has a great business model, and boy, is he a great networker
He's a good deal
and
flow.
a great friend. He's fantastic. This is the Collecting Real Estate podcast. So they say you have to have 3 of something to make a collection. We have 3 questions for you to finish up this episode. In 5 words or less, and why don't you start, Lindsay, and then Michael, you can answer right after this, unless you have the same answer. In 5 words or less, what's the most important thing you've learned since you started collecting real estate?
A lot of lessons. I think what we're into now, I'd say your network is your net worth. There we go. 5.
Beautiful. Michael.
Wow, that's good.
You can't use my answer.
I don't know if I can be that concise, but on my end, I would say it's a people business. 2 words, but yeah, can I explain more about it or just?
Yeah, go ahead. No, it's a people business, but yes, elaborate, please.
Yeah, so I've been again dealing with tenants, contractors, and now we are dealing with potential partners. And you have to, as far as like tenants, obviously you being almost the property manager, you have to deal with people's life. You have to understand that, and to make your business successful, you can't forget the people aspect. Yeah. So that to me, I spend a lot of time answering calls, helping people. Sometimes you have. It's not just about the money. You have to realize you're, providing a home to people, and they may have difficulty in their life too. So, that you have to be good with that. You have to understand not everything is, easy for them as well. And if you want to be successful on your end, sometimes you have to help them out. And we just came out of obviously COVID, and that's, there's a time where you had to be very careful with the situation of your own tenants.
We did collect rent from everybody through all of the pandemic, but yeah, like he said, sometimes people had some difficulties. They might be a couple weeks late, but yeah, we did collect.
And same with the contractors. Sometimes you have to realize that they have difficulties, and you have to understand not everything. You have to give concessions, and you have to be good with people. And
it's a people business all the way.
Right.
Absolutely. Life's a game. Our business is a game. And then they add a pandemic to the mix. And boy, does that make this game of life and business so much more interesting. And next question for you guys. Let's do it the same way. What are your 1 to 2 year personal goals?
So good question. 1 year goal, I think for both of us, is to be a GP on at least 2 deals, do 2 more JV deals. And we would like to be a limited partner as well. Sometimes it is nice to just have completely passive income. And my 2 year goal, when we started 3 years ago, we had a 5-year goal. So that 5 years in 2 years from now. And that is to have enough money from real estate to replace my salary for that freedom of time so that I can be a physician on my own terms. And we're on track for that. So that feels good.
Right. I think there's.
Hey, let's talk about personal goals here. You guys are all business, all business. You got a family. Let's talk about some personal
goals. So we have a 5-year-old boy. Our daughter is 3. She turns 4 next month, and we have an 8-year-old or an 8-month-old. Sometimes I wish they were 8 years old already, but an 8-month-old. So we're busy at home. We have a lot of energy at home. So goals for the kids. Obviously, he's from France. We hope that they become fluent in French. So that's a big personal family goal, and for myself as well. I want hold me accountable for that, so I can learn to speak French as well, and just to raise them to be happy, healthy, self-sufficient little kids too. And personally, I like to do artwork too. And on my vision board, I'd like to do one piece of art a month, like painting. So that's something that, again, with the freedom of time, hopefully I have more time to do some of those hobbies as well. I'm a big Peloton addict. I love to ride the bike.
I love that picture. Is that your art right there in your background?
This is our logo, our Clover Key Capital logo.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's beautiful. Michael, what about your personal goals?
Well, as you can see, we're obviously very active, and we have young kids, and sometimes we don't sleep much. So I think a personal goal is within the next 2 years, get more time for ourselves. We didn't go on honeymoon because we had our first kid, and at the same time, right after we get married, actually, Lindsay was pregnant when we got married.
That was 6 years ago we got married. We've been on very many vacations. We've been to France, Mexico. So you say it like that, but we have taken a lot of trips.
But I mean, overall, I want to make sure that everything we do and all the efforts we go through, we have those 5 years professional goals, but the ultimate personal goal for us is to have more time for ourselves and reducing her time at work. Being in a situation where what we have done the last 5 years give us the freedom of traveling. Obviously, I'd like to spend more time in Europe.
His family's still all there. Yeah.
So my parents can see the kids. My mom still hasn't seen our third kid, so that's one of the goals. Spend more time with the parents so we can see their grandchild growing. And obviously traveling. I love traveling. I used to travel way more when I was an engineer, so I'd like to go to the Olympic Games in Paris in 2024. That's one of my goals. I love sports, so.
You wanted to go to Qatar this year, and I put a little damper on that.
That's fantastic. No, I love that. Traveling and yeah, being from France, geez, your family is huge, boy. Geez, they haven't seen your third child yet.
Right. And one of the last goals, I'd like to have a house close to the shore. So that's one of our projects.
He had that on his vision board for his 40th birthday to get a house at the shore. I said, well, we have to make it business, so that'll be a short-term rental.
Awesome. Last question for you guys. How can we and the listeners assist you, and how do we contact you?
So contact Lindsay at duguetestates.com or go to cloverkeycapital.com. We have an investor portal there. You can sign up to learn about any of our future deals. I'm big into giving back, so I'm always open to any type of question, even if it is somebody just trying to start their first single family home or how to deal through that process too. So yeah, I'm open to any type of questions and how to help us. If you find a good deal, even if it's something that you're a wholesaler to sell anything 20 to 120 units, yeah, pass it along.
And if you get seriously injured, you can go to Lindsay's emergency room and she'll help you out.
Nope.
Michael, how do we contact you? Or are they the same platforms there?
Yeah, so you can reach out to us on our website again, cloverkeycapital.com, Michael at duguetestates.com.
We'll put all that in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, we appreciate you guys today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.